thank you again. I'm really happy that I get to share. This is the work that we did collaboratively with my PhD student, Robin, who I hope you have got a chance to talk to him today, and one of our master students, Murtada. A little bit of context. Children and how they see the world. And I will be closer to the microphone. Children and how they see the world. If we think about it as a particular user group, very often understudied when it comes to all areas, but particularly recommender systems, but I get to that. How they see the world is very impacted by the media, but also other materials that they interact with. And so it can shape how they think, how they see themselves, where they belong to, where they don't belong to, what they should do or not. And they're particularly vulnerable at all these external influences. And if we think about the statistics, that we have seen many of them this week, but also I'm sure all of you online, most of the media that children are exposed to is online. They're a digital generation, whether we like it or not, or however we think they should be exposed to screens, probably not, depending on their age, but they are, and they consume videos, images, I don't know, whatever you want to think of online. And that's where recommender systems come in. If we think about it, a lot of the material that they go seeking, but also the one that they're randomly exposed to when they are navigating different platforms and in different systems come from recommenders. And that's something that we cannot avoid. So then it kind of makes sense that as a community, all of us sitting here with different expertise, but also you that are not here, but that work on recommender systems, that we put a little bit of a spotlight of what is the role of recommender systems. What are the algorithms doing in terms of replicating or mitigating stereotypes? What is the impact if children are exposed to stereotypes and if they're propagating that stereotype? What does it mean in the long term? And what does it mean for children and society, the role of their connection to recommender systems? So what we did is we put all those questions together. We debated back and forward on how we wanted to analyze and where do we wanted to start, because it's not an easy problem. Which stereotypes, which children, which algorithms, which materials. And so we ended up creating a framing of sorts where we picked movie lens. And one of the reasons why we pick movie lens is one of the very few data sets. If we think about how we all do research, data sets are scarce, number one. When it comes to children users, more so. So we use movie lens that has some samples or enough that we could explore that are child users. We also use Goodreads because there are books that are labeled for children. And then we took a suite of algorithms. We use Elliot because, again, the point is not to see which algorithm is better or is worse at stereotypes. We just wanted to understand what is the range of this problem. And I'm looking at the clock. Okay. Grab me out of the screen, out of the stage, Ashmi. Give me a cue. And then we look at different stereotypes. We pick three. We pick race, we pick gender, and we pick religion as just as a starting point. And then we just run the recommendations and we explore. The first things we had to figure it out, how do we actually detect stereotypes? It turns out that it's not a straightforward problem. We went into an NLP conference, we went into HCI conference, we went into machine learning conferences, and there is no consensus of models that can detect stereotypes. So we went from a naive model, the name particularly on gender. We use bias meter, that one is the most state-of-the-art that we could find in terms of detection. And then we use ChatGPT as the labeler. We debated back and forward, but we wanted another opinion, so we went with ChatGPT. And what we did is we explored in the data sets, in the training set, what are the items that were affected or that were detected as to contain stereotypes. And as we see, if we look at gender, for example, if we look at movies on bias meter, 60% of the items actually are labeled as negative, like a stereotype, like depicting negative stereotypes. And some of the others are less prominent, but they're there nonetheless. So we start with the data. If the data already is impacted by stereotypes, how do algorithms propagate or showcase that? And then I'm not even going to bother show you or describe all these numbers. The table is bigger in the paper, and we have several pages of numbers. But what we wanted is to put in context many algorithms, and we did use metrics like NDCG and MRR and MAP, but just for context. We're not trying to find out who wins, contextualizing how algorithms behave when it comes to children, and then we use a suite of strategies or metrics to try to say how many items that are impacted by stereotypes are present in the top end list, which position, how likely are they to reach children. What we discovered is that we may have a problem. We may have a problem because stereotypes are alive and well in all of our data sets, and they are in data sets, and that means that they make it through the algorithms. None of the algorithms were designed to purposely showcase stereotypes. That's not the point. And yet, that is what is happening. So as a community, again, back to the beginning, we do have a responsibility to look at this, because at the design moment, we didn't think about it, but now we need to deal with the consequences, as this is just the beginning of our analysis. So in the end, stereotypes are everywhere in the media that are consumed by children. You may be tempted to say the solution is we filter. It's not as straightforward, because when we filter, what are we filtering and for whom? Something for a 3-year-old is not the same as a 6 or a 10, and I'm going to find out this is a new one problem, so we're going to keep working on and showing the conversation. Because what we want is child-aware recommender systems where we think ahead rather than patch solutions in the end. And I swear that I practice this, but it has been a long week, so I'm going to apologize for the extra time.
Have you thought about implementing this kind of thing in real world, or then what kind of, how can we prevent these biases from propagating in the real world for children so that they are not affected?
So right now we're trying to understand how they are present in the real world. We started with these data sets. Now we have been looking at something like YouTube Kids, and that's kind of where we try to move forward. In the future, yes, we would like to prevent it, but like I said, how do we decide what is the line? And so it's a complex problem, and we need to understand who are the stakeholders involved and what is their say on all of this.